She was building a shelter with broken boards. Her dead husband's brother stood watching. The morning air was cold and damp, like the world had forgotten to warm up. The sky was covered in thick clouds, and the sun hid behind them as if it was too shy to show itself. The village was quiet, not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that happens after something heavy has happened. The kind of quiet that makes people walk slowly, speak softly, and look down when they pass each other. Amina did not notice the silence around her. She was too busy looking at the ground. She looked at the broken boards, the pieces of wood that had once been part of her home. She walked carefully through the ruins, stepping over nails and splinters. She did not cry. She did not scream. She just kept walking, picking up what she could. Her hands were already raw, the wood had sharp edges and the rain had made it rough and heavy. But Amina did not care about her hands. She cared about the shelter. She cared about her child. She cared about the promise she had made to herself. She would not give up. She reached the place where her house used to stand. It was hard to recognize it now. The walls were gone, the roof was broken, and the ground was covered in broken furniture and scattered belongings. The only thing that still stood was a small part of the wall near the back, leaning at an angle like a tired old man. Amina stood there for a moment, looking at the broken remains. Her eyes were dry. She had cried so much in the past days that she felt like she had nothing left to cry. She was tired, but she could not sleep. She was hungry, but she could not eat. Her body felt heavy, but her mind kept moving, thinking, planning, surviving. She walked back to the pile of broken boards she had collected earlier. She had found them in the fields near the old storage shed and behind the neighbor's fence. Some boards were long, some were short, some were strong, some were weak. None of them were perfect. But they were all she had. She sat down on a piece of broken wood and began to work. She used a small hammer that had survived the destruction. She used nails she had found in a small tin box that had once held sugar. She tied pieces of rope together to make them stronger. She did not have a proper plan. She did not have a blueprint. She only had her determination. Amina was building a shelter with broken boards, not a house, not a home. A shelter, a place to protect her child from rain, wind, and cold nights. A place where she could sleep without fear. She hammered the first board into the ground. It was hard work. The board shook and the nail bent a little, but she kept going. She hammered again and again until the board stood firm. She did not look at her hands. She did not look at the pain. She only looked at the board as if it were the most important thing in the world. When she finished, she stood up and looked at what she had built. It was not much. It was only a few boards standing upright, tied together with rope. It looked fragile, it looked weak. It looked like it could fall down at any moment, but Amina smiled. She smiled because it was something. It was a beginning. It was proof that she could still build, still create, still move forward. It was proof that she was still alive. A sound made her stop, a small noise like someone walking slowly through the grass. She turned her head, but she did not see anyone at first. The village was still quiet. The only sound was the wind moving through the broken branches and the scattered debris. Then she saw him. He was standing a few steps away at the edge of the ruins. He was watching her, not with anger, not with kindness, just watching. His posture was stiff, his hands in his pockets, his eyes fixed on the work she was doing. Amina's heart tightened. She knew him. He was her dead husband's brother, Khalid. She had not expected to see him. She had not thought he would come. She had not wanted him to come. She had not forgiven him. She had not forgotten. Khalid had always been a quiet man. He did not speak much, and when he did, his words were cold and sharp. He had a serious face, the kind that rarely showed emotion. He was the kind of person who looked at others as if they were a problem he did not want to solve. Amina had married his brother because she believed in love. She believed in family. She believed that life would be better, but life had not been kind. Her husband had died in a tragic accident, and the village had blamed many people. The truth was complicated, and many secrets had stayed hidden. But everyone knew that Khalid had been close to the situation. Everyone knew that he had been there. Amina did not look at him. She did not stop working. She pretended she did not see him. Khalid did not move. He stayed in the same place, watching her build. Amina felt a cold feeling in her chest. She was not afraid. She was angry. She was angry at him, at the world, at the situation. She was angry at the fact that she had to build a shelter from broken boards, while other people had houses with solid walls and roofs. She did not want help from him. She did not want his pity. She did not want his words. She only wanted to finish her shelter. She hammered another nail into the board. The sound was loud in the quiet morning. The board shook again. Her hand trembled slightly, but she held the hammer tightly. Khalid moved a little closer. He stopped a few feet away. He did not speak. He did not offer to help. He only stood there, watching. Amina's mind started to remember things she had tried to forget. She remembered the last time she had seen her husband alive. She remembered his smile, his laugh, the way he used to hold her hand when they walked through the village. She remembered how happy he had been when he was building their home. She remembered the night of the accident. She remembered the sound of the shouting, the fear, the running. She remembered the moment she realized her husband was gone. She remembered the emptiness in her chest, the feeling that her heart had been taken out of her body. She remembered Khalid's face that night. He had been there, he had seen everything. He had stood there and watched as her world fell apart. Amina swallowed the memory. She kept working. She did not want to think about it. She did not want to feel the pain again. Khalid took a step forward. Amina heard the sound of his shoes on the broken ground. She did not look at him. She did not stop working. She pretended she was too busy to notice. "Khalid," she said quietly without looking up. He flinched slightly at the sound of his name. He did not answer. He just stood there. Amina continued. She moved the board carefully, adjusting it. She tied the rope tightly. She hammered another nail. Her hands were shaking, but she kept going. Khalid finally spoke. "Do you need help?" he asked, his voice low. Amina stopped for a moment. She did not look at him. She did not answer right away. She wanted to say many things. She wanted to tell him that he should have helped her before. She wanted to tell him that he had no right to be here. She wanted to tell him that her husband was dead because of what happened. But she did not say any of that. She only said, "No." Khalid did not move. He did not leave. He stayed there like a statue. Amina went back to her work. She hammered another nail. The board finally held. She stood up and looked at the shelter again. It was still small, still weak. But it was more than before. Khalid moved closer again. Amina saw his face now. It was pale. His eyes looked tired. His mouth was tight, as if he was holding back words. "I didn't know what to do," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I didn't know how to come. I didn't know if you would hate me." Amina felt her chest tighten. She had wanted to hate him. She had wanted to feel anger. But his words did something strange inside her. They did not make her forgive him. They did not make her forget. But they made her feel something she had not felt in days, a small flicker of pain. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see his face without meeting his eyes. "You didn't know what to do," she repeated. "You could have helped. You could have come earlier." Khalid looked down at the ground. "I was afraid," he said softly. "I was afraid of what people would say. I was afraid of what you would say. I was afraid of the truth." Amina stopped working. She stood still, holding the hammer in her hand. Her heart beat faster. She could feel the anger rising, but she also felt something else, curiosity. She wanted to know what he meant by the truth. "What truth?" she asked. Khalid swallowed. He looked up at the shelter, at the broken boards, at the small structure she was building. "The truth about what happened," he said. "The truth about your husband." Amina's eyes widened slightly. She felt a sudden rush of fear. She did not want to hear it. She did not want to know. She had survived the past days by not thinking too much, by staying busy, by building this shelter. But now Khalid was standing in front of her and he was talking about the truth. Amina did not speak. She only looked at him. Khalid took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. He looked like a man who had been carrying a heavy weight for a long time. "I was there," he said quietly. "I saw it. I didn't stop it." Amina's heart felt like it had stopped. She did not move. She did not speak. She only stared. Khalid continued. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't want him to die. I only wanted things to be different." Amina felt her hands tighten around the hammer. Her nails dug into her skin. She could feel the pain, but she did not let it show. She looked at Khalid. She looked at his face, his eyes, his hands. She looked at him like she was trying to understand something that did not make sense. "Khalid," she said softly, "you should have stopped it." Khalid nodded slowly. "I know," he whispered. "I know." Amina turned back to her shelter. She did not know what to do. She did not know if she should listen to him or ignore him. She did not know if she should forgive him or hate him. She did know one thing: she could not stop building. She could not stop moving forward. If she stopped, she would fall apart. If she stopped, she would be trapped in the past forever, so she kept working. Khalid watched her. He did not help. He did not speak. He just watched like a man waiting for punishment. The wind began to blow stronger. The clouds moved faster across the sky. The air felt colder. Amina felt the cold in her bones. She looked at the shelter. It was not enough. It was still too weak. She needed more boards. She needed more nails. She needed help. She looked at Khalid again. She did not know what he was thinking. She did not know if he would leave or stay. She did not know if he would ever speak again. But she knew one thing: she was not alone anymore. Even if it was only his shadow, his presence, his guilt, his silence, it was something. And for the first time in days, Amina felt a small flicker of hope. She continued to build. The sky began to darken as the day moved forward. Clouds rolled across the horizon and the wind picked up, carrying the smell of wet earth and broken wood. The village still seemed quiet, but Amina could feel the tension in the air. People were watching from behind their doors and windows, whispering to each other. The news had spread quickly that Khalid was near her home again. Amina did not care about the whispers. She cared about the shelter. She cared about her child. She cared about surviving the night. She kept working, but her mind was full of thoughts. She tried to focus on the nails, on the boards, on the ropes, but her mind kept going back to Khalid's words. The truth about what happened. The fact that he had been there. The fact that he had not stopped it. She felt a strange mix of anger and curiosity. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to throw the hammer at him and tell him to leave. But she also wanted to understand why. Why did it happen? Why did he not stop it? Why did he come now? She continued to hammer, but her hands shook. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. She told herself that she was building a shelter, not a prison for her feelings. She told herself that she needed to keep moving. Khalid stood a few feet away, watching her. He did not move. He did not speak. He only watched. Amina finally turned to look at him. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice quiet but steady. "If you feel guilty, go. If you feel ashamed, go. You don't need to stay here and watch me suffer." Khalid's eyes softened slightly. He looked at the shelter she was building. He looked at her hands, the way they held the hammer, the way they trembled. He looked at her face, the way it was calm but tired. "I came because I didn't know what else to do," he said. "I didn't know how to face you. I didn't know how to face myself." Amina felt a small pain in her chest. She did not want to feel sympathy. She did not want to feel sorry for him. She did not want to let him into her life again. But his words were honest. They sounded real. "You could have come earlier," she said. "You could have helped before. You could have told the truth before." Khalid nodded. "I know," he said softly. "I know I should have. I was afraid. I thought if I stayed away, I could forget. I thought if I stayed away, people would stop blaming me." Amina stared at him. She did not know what to say. She felt a strong urge to speak harshly, to punish him with her words. But she also felt tired. She was tired of fighting. She was tired of pain. She was tired of living in a world where nothing was fair. She went back to her work. She hammered another nail into the board. She tied another rope. The shelter slowly grew, piece by piece, like a small miracle made of broken wood. Khalid finally moved closer. He stood near the shelter, but he did not touch anything. He looked at her work with a kind of respect, as if he could see her strength. "You are strong," he said quietly. Amina paused. She looked at him. She felt a strange feeling in her chest. She did not know if it was anger or pride. "I am not strong," she said. "I am just trying to survive." Khalid looked down. "Surviving is strong," he said. "You are doing what many people cannot do." Amina did not answer. She did not want to accept his words. She did not want to let him see that his words affected her. The wind blew harder. A few drops of rain began to fall. Amina looked up at the sky. She knew the rain would come soon. She needed to finish the shelter before night. She worked faster. She hammered and tied and adjusted. She used every piece of wood she had. She used the rope to make the structure stronger. She tried to make it as solid as possible. Khalid watched her work. He looked like a man who wanted to help but did not know how. He looked like a man who wanted to fix things but had no tools to do it. Amina finally spoke again. "Why did you come back?" she asked. "Why now?" Khalid hesitated. He looked at the ground, then at her. He took a deep breath, as if he was preparing himself to say something difficult. "I came back because I realized something," he said. "I realized that hiding does not help. Hiding does not make the past disappear. Hiding only makes the pain grow." Amina stopped working. She looked at him. She felt her heart beating fast. "What do you want from me?" she asked. Khalid's eyes met hers. "I want to tell the truth," he said. "I want to apologize. I want to make things right even if it is too late." Amina felt her face tighten. She did not know what to say. She wanted to shout. She wanted to cry. She wanted to throw the hammer away and run. But she also wanted to hear him. She wanted to know the truth. She lowered her hammer. She sat down on a broken board, the same board she had sat on earlier. She looked at Khalid. Tell me, she said. Tell me what happened. Khaled's face became serious. He looked down at the ground, then slowly began to speak. It was a day like any other, he said. The sun was shining, the village was busy, people were working, your husband and I were talking, we had a disagreement. I wanted something different. I wanted him to listen to me. I wanted him to follow my advice, but he did not. Amina listened carefully. Her heart was pounding. She tried to keep her face calm. Khaled continued. I said things I should not have said. I raised my voice. I was angry. I did not think I was wrong. Amina's eyes filled with tears. She did not let them fall. She blinked quickly, trying to keep them inside. Khaled looked up at her. I did not mean for him to die, he said. I did not want that. I only wanted him to stop. I only wanted him to listen. But I said the wrong things. I did the wrong things, and then something happened. Amina's voice was soft. What happened? Khaled looked away. He looked like a man who could not bear to say it. There was an accident, he said. He slipped, he fell. I tried to catch him, but I was too late. Amina's hands shook. She felt her body become cold. But you were there, she said. You were there when it happened. Khaled nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I was there. I could have done more. I could have stopped it. I could have helped. I did not. Amina's eyes filled with tears again. She could feel the pain in her chest. She felt the anger rising. She stood up. She walked away from the shelter, away from Khaled. She needed space. She needed air. She walked through the broken ground, stepping carefully. She looked at the ruins of her home. She looked at the broken boards, the scattered belongings, the memories of a life that was gone. She thought about her husband. She thought about his smile. She thought about his voice. She thought about the way he used to hold her hand. She thought about how his life ended so suddenly, how the world could change in a moment. She thought about Khaled. She thought about his face. She thought about his words. She wondered if he was telling the truth. She wondered if he was telling her the whole truth. She turned back to the shelter. She saw Khaled standing there watching her. He looked tired. He looked sorry. He looked like a man who had lost something important. Amina walked back to the shelter. She sat down again. She picked up the hammer. She continued to work, but her mind was heavy. She could feel the rain coming closer. The wind was stronger now. The clouds were darker. She knew she had to finish soon. She hammered and tied and adjusted. She worked quickly but carefully. She did not want the shelter to fall. Khaled stood near her, still watching. He did not touch anything. He did not speak. Amina looked at him. She felt a small anger again. She felt a small pain again. She thought about how he had been quiet for so long. She thought about how he had not helped her. She thought about how he had been there when her husband died. She thought about how he was still here watching her. She did not know if she could forgive him. She did not know if she wanted to forgive him. She did not know if forgiveness was even possible. But she knew one thing: she was still building. She was still moving forward. She was still alive. She looked at the shelter. It was bigger now. It had more boards. It looked stronger. It was not a house. It was not a home, but it was something. Amina looked at Khaled again. She saw him standing there, silent, watching her. She wondered what he would do next. Would he leave? Would he stay? Would he help? She did not know, but she knew that the night was coming. The rain was coming. The cold was coming. She needed help. She needed shelter. She needed hope. She continued to work, and the shelter grew, piece by piece, like a small light in the dark. The rain began to fall in small drops at first, like someone gently tapping on a window. Then the drops became stronger, heavier, as if the sky was trying to wash away the sadness of the village. Amina felt the cold water on her skin. She did not stop working. She did not slow down. She kept hammering and tying and adjusting, even though her hands were wet and slippery. The shelter was taking shape, but it was still not enough. The boards were uneven. The ropes were loose in some places. The structure looked shaky, like it could fall if the wind became too strong. Amina knew she had to finish quickly. She knew she had to make it strong enough to hold the rain and the wind. Khaled stood near her, watching. He looked like a man who wanted to help but was afraid to touch anything. He looked like a man who felt guilty for being there. He looked like a man who did not know how to fix what was broken. Amina continued to work, but her mind was busy. She kept thinking about what Khaled had said. She kept thinking about the truth. She kept thinking about the accident. She kept thinking about her husband. She wondered if Khaled was telling the full truth. She wondered if there were more secrets. She wondered if he was hiding something. She also wondered why he had come back now, why he had chosen this moment to appear in her life again, why he had decided to speak. The rain was stronger now. It hit the ground with a loud sound. It hit the boards and made them slippery. Amina's hair was wet. Her clothes stuck to her body. She felt cold, but she did not stop. She hammered a board into place. The nail bent. She tried again. The nail broke. She looked around for another nail. She found one in the tin box. She used it. Khalid finally moved closer. He looked at the shelter. He looked at Amina's hands. He looked at her face. He looked like a man who had realized something important. "Let me help," he said quietly. Amina did not answer. She kept working. Khalid tried again. "Please," he said. "Let me help." Amina stopped. She turned her head slightly, just enough to see him. She looked at his face. She looked at his eyes. She could see the sincerity there. She could see the regret. She thought about how much she had suffered. She thought about how hard she had worked. She thought about how alone she had felt. She thought about how the village had looked at her with pity and fear. She thought about how her child needed a shelter. She thought about how she needed to survive the night. She sighed quietly. She looked at the shelter. She looked at the rain. She looked at Khalid. "Fine," she said softly, "but you must listen to me. You must do what I say. You cannot make it worse." Khalid nodded quickly. "Yes," he said, "I will listen." Amina handed him a board. She showed him where to place it. She showed him how to tie the rope tightly. She showed him how to hammer the nails correctly. She guided him step by step. Khalid worked carefully. He followed her instructions. He did not rush. He did not argue. He did not speak. He only worked. Amina watched him. She felt a strange feeling inside her. She felt like she was seeing him for the first time. She saw him not as the man who was connected to her husband's death, but as a man who was trying to do something right. She felt a small change in her heart. She did not know if it was forgiveness. She did not know if it was trust. She only knew that she felt less anger. The shelter began to look stronger. The boards fit better. The ropes were tight. The structure looked more solid. Amina felt a small sense of relief. But the rain was still strong. The wind was still heavy. The night was coming. Amina looked at the sky. She could see the dark clouds moving. She could see the storm coming closer. She knew she had to finish soon. She looked at Khalid. "We need to make the roof," she said. "We need to cover the top. Otherwise, the rain will come inside." Khalid nodded. He looked at the boards. He looked at the roof pieces. He looked at the ropes. He picked up a long board. He held it carefully. He looked at Amina as if asking for permission. Amina nodded. "Put it there," she said, pointing to the top. Khalid placed the board carefully across the top of the shelter. He held it steady. He looked at Amina for a moment. He seemed unsure. He seemed afraid. Amina understood. She knew he was afraid of failing. She knew he was afraid of making things worse. She knew he was afraid of being judged. She walked closer to him. She placed her hand on his arm gently. She did not speak. She only touched him as if to say, "You can do this." Khalid looked at her hand. He looked at her face. He took a deep breath. He nodded. He continued working. Together they built the roof. They tied the boards with rope. They hammered the nails. They adjusted the boards to fit better. They worked as a team. Amina felt the shelter becoming more real. She felt the structure becoming stronger. She felt hope growing inside her. The rain was still falling, but now she could feel the shelter protecting her. She could feel the roof above her head. She could feel the boards around her. She looked at Khalid. She saw him working hard. She saw him trying to help. She saw him trying to make things right. She thought about the past. She thought about the pain. She thought about the loss. She also thought about the future. She thought about her child. She thought about the next day. She thought about the possibility of living again. She felt a small smile on her face. She did not know why. She did not know if it was because of the shelter or because of Khalid. She did not know if it was because of the rain or because of the truth. But she felt something inside her that she had not felt in a long time, hope. The wind grew stronger. The rain became heavier. The storm was coming. Amina and Khalid finished the roof. They stood inside the shelter looking at their work. It was not perfect, but it was strong enough. It was enough to keep them dry. It was enough to keep them safe. Amina looked at Khalid. She saw the wetness on his face. She saw the tiredness in his eyes. She saw the guilt in his expression. She felt a sudden urge to speak again. She felt a sudden need to know more. She felt a sudden need to understand. "Khalid," she said softly, "why did you stay away for so long?" Khalid looked at her. He looked like a man who had been waiting for this question. He sighed deeply. He looked down at his hands. "I was afraid," he said again. "I was afraid of your anger. I was afraid of the village. I was afraid of myself." Amina listened. She felt the pain in his words. She felt the honesty. She felt the truth. "But you came now," she said. "Why now?" Khalid looked at the shelter. He looked at the rain. He looked at the sky. "I came because I realized that I cannot live with this guilt," he said. "I cannot live with the truth inside me. I cannot live with the thought that I could have done something and did not. I cannot live with the thought that I ran away. Amina felt her eyes fill with tears again. She did not let them fall. She held them inside. She looked at Khalid. She saw him as a human being, not just as the man connected to her pain. She thought about how many times she had wanted to speak to him, how many times she had wanted to ask him questions, how many times she had wanted to punish him. She realized that punishment would not bring her husband back. It would not bring her home back. It would not bring her life back. She realized that she needed to survive. She realized that she needed to build a future. She looked at Khalid and said quietly, "If you want to make things right, you must stay. You must help. You must tell the truth to the village. You must accept the consequences." Khalid nodded. His eyes were wet. He looked at her with respect. "I will," he said. "I will do it." The rain continued to fall. The storm continued to rage. But inside the shelter, Amina and Khalid felt a small warmth. It was not only from the shelter, but from the fact that they were no longer alone. They sat inside, tired and wet. They listened to the rain hitting the roof. They listened to the wind outside. They listened to the quiet. Amina looked at Khalid and felt a small change inside her. She did not know if she could forgive him completely, but she knew she could begin to understand him. She knew that the truth was important. She knew that the shelter was not only made of broken boards. It was made of hope, truth, and the start of a new beginning. The storm continued through the night. The rain fell hard, and the wind moved in strong waves, shaking the trees and pushing the broken boards around. The village was quiet, but the sound of the storm made everything feel alive. It was as if the world was reminding everyone that nature was powerful and could not be controlled. Inside the shelter, Amina and Khalid sat close together. They were both wet, cold, and tired. Their clothes stuck to their bodies, and their hair was wet and heavy. Amina wrapped her arms around her knees, trying to keep warm. Khalid sat beside her, his shoulders slumped, his face tired. They did not speak for a while. The only sound was the rain hitting the roof and the wind outside. Amina looked at the boards that made up the shelter. She could see the small spaces between them. She knew the shelter was not perfect. She knew it would not last forever, but it was enough for now. Khalid broke the silence. "I want to tell you something," he said softly. Amina looked at him. She felt her heart beat faster. She did not know what he was going to say. She did not know if she was ready to hear it. "What is it?" she asked. Khalid took a deep breath. He looked down at his hands. "I want to tell you the truth," he said. "The full truth." Amina's eyes widened slightly. She felt a small fear. She had heard parts of the truth already. She had heard the story of the accident, but she did not know the full truth. She did not know what else he was hiding. She waited. She listened. Khalid began to speak. "The day your husband died, I was angry. I was upset. I felt like he did not respect me. I felt like he did not listen to me. I wanted to be in control. I wanted to be the one who made decisions." Amina listened quietly. Her face was calm, but her heart was heavy. Khalid continued. "We argued. We said things we should not have said. I said something that I regret. I said something that hurt him. I did not mean it, but I said it." Amina's eyes filled with tears. She tried to hold them back. Khalid looked at her. "I did not hit him," he said quickly. "I did not hurt him. I did not want that. I only wanted him to listen." Amina nodded slowly. She did not know what to say. She felt a mix of emotions. She felt anger, but also sadness. She felt hurt, but also understanding. Khalid continued. "After the argument, he left. He walked away. I followed him. I wanted to talk. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to make things right, but he did not want to listen." Amina listened, her eyes fixed on the boards. She could feel the rain on the outside of the shelter. She could feel the cold. Khalid continued. "He walked near the river. He was angry. He was upset. He was not careful. He slipped. He fell. I tried to catch him, but I was too late." Amina's breathing became shallow. She felt the pain again. She felt the moment when her husband had fallen. She felt the emptiness. Khalid's voice was soft. "I ran to get help. I ran to find people. But when I came back, it was too late." Amina looked at him. She could see the guilt in his eyes. She could see the sadness. She could see the regret. She felt a small anger. She wanted to shout. She wanted to ask why he did not stay, why he did not call for help, why he did not do more, but she also knew that anger would not change anything. Anger would not bring her husband back. Anger would not fix the past. She looked at Khalid. She saw him as a man who had made a mistake, a man who had lost someone he cared about, a man who was now paying for it with guilt. She took a deep breath. She tried to calm herself. She tried to find the right words. "Why did you stay away?" she asked. "Why did you not tell me sooner?" Khalid's eyes filled with tears. He looked down. "I was afraid," he said. "I was afraid of what you would say. I was afraid of what the village would do. I was afraid of myself." Amina listened. She felt the pain in his words. She felt the honesty. She felt the truth. She looked at him. She felt a small sadness. She realized that he had been suffering too. He had been carrying the weight of the truth for a long time. He had been living with guilt every day. Amina's voice was quiet. "I am not asking you to be forgiven," she said. "I am not asking you to make me feel better. I am only asking you to tell the truth." Khalid nodded. "I will," he said. "I will tell the truth to the village. I will accept whatever happens. I will face the consequences." Amina looked at him. She felt a small respect. She felt a small hope. The rain continued to fall. The wind continued to blow. The shelter shook slightly, but it held. Amina and Khalid sat inside, listening to the storm. The night was dark, but the shelter felt like a small, safe place. It was not perfect, but it was a beginning. Amina thought about her husband. She thought about his life. She thought about his dreams. She thought about the future they had planned together. She thought about the child they had. She felt a deep sadness. She felt the loss again, but she also felt something else. She felt a small strength. She felt the ability to continue. She felt the ability to survive. She looked at Khalid again. She saw him as a person, not as the cause of her pain. She saw him as someone who had made a mistake and now wanted to fix it. She realized that the truth was not only about the past. It was about the future, too. If Khalid told the truth, the village would know. The village would stop blaming her for everything. The village would stop whispering. The village would stop looking at her with fear. If Khalid told the truth, she could start to rebuild her life. She looked at him and said softly, "Tomorrow you must go to the village. You must tell them everything. You must tell them the truth. You must tell them that you were there. You must tell them that you did not stop it. You must tell them that you feel guilty." Khalid nodded. "Yes," he said, "I will do it." Amina felt a small relief. She felt a small hope. But she also knew that the village might not accept the truth. She knew that people might still be angry. She knew that some people would never forgive him. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult. But she also knew that the shelter was strong enough to hold them through the night. She knew that the truth was strong enough to start a new beginning. Amina looked at the boards. She looked at the broken wood. She thought about how something broken could still be used to build something strong. She thought about her life. She thought about how her heart was broken. She thought about how she could still find a way to live. She looked at Khalid. She saw the tears in his eyes. She saw the guilt on his face. She saw the sincerity in his voice. She felt a small kindness inside her. She did not know if she could forgive him. She did not know if she would ever fully trust him. But she knew she could let him be part of the truth. She knew she could let him help. She knew she could let him stay. The storm continued through the night, but the shelter held. The boards creaked, but they did not break. The ropes held tight, and the shelter remained strong. Amina and Khalid stayed inside, waiting for the morning, waiting for the truth, waiting for the next step. The night was long, but inside the shelter there was a small light of hope, truth, and a chance for a new beginning. The morning came slowly. The rain had stopped, leaving the village wet and quiet. The air smelled of fresh earth and wet leaves. Amina stepped outside the shelter, her feet sinking slightly into the soft, muddy ground. She looked around. The storm had left the village in a quiet, reflective state. Broken branches lay scattered, and the roofs of some houses were still leaking. Yet there was a calm now, a sense that the worst had passed. Amina turned back to the shelter. It was strong enough to keep her and her child safe through the night. She ran her hand along the rough boards. They were uneven, some of them cracked, but they were solid. They had held through the storm. They had protected her. She looked at Khalid, who was standing silently beside the shelter. He had stayed the night without speaking much, helping where he could and staying out of her way. Now, in the morning light, he looked tired but determined. She could see that the weight of guilt had not left him, but it had become lighter because he had faced it, at least for himself. "Are you ready?" she asked softly. Khalid nodded. "Yes," he said. "I need to tell them the truth. I cannot stay quiet anymore." Amina took a deep breath. She knew this would not be easy. The villagers had talked. The story of her husband's death had been twisted and repeated in ways that hurt her and her child. Some blamed her, some blamed Khalid, and others just whispered out of fear and uncertainty. She did not know how the villagers would react. She did not know if they would forgive him. She did not know if they would forgive her. But she knew that facing the truth was the only way forward. She had spent nights crying alone, while Khalid had carried his guilt silently. Now it was time to face the past together. They began walking toward the village. The ground was muddy and their steps left deep marks. The silence of the morning made every sound they made louder. Their footsteps echoed through the empty streets, mixing with the soft chirping of birds that had returned after the rain. People began to appear in doorways, watching quietly as they approached. Some looked curious, some looked angry, some looked worried. The children followed quietly, peeking from behind their parents' legs. No one spoke. The villagers had been waiting, knowing something would happen after the storm. Khalid took a deep breath. He walked to the center of the village square. Amina stood beside him, her hand lightly resting on his arm. She could feel the tension around them. She could feel the weight of the eyes upon them. She could feel the questions that everyone wanted to ask. Khalid cleared his throat. His voice was quiet at first, but it grew stronger as he spoke. "I have something important to say," he began. "I have stayed silent for too long. I have carried guilt in my heart for a long time, and I cannot keep it hidden anymore. I need to tell the truth about what happened the day your brother, your son, your friend," he faltered for a moment, then corrected himself. "The day my brother, her husband, passed away." The villagers shifted uneasily. Some whispered, some frowned, some looked away. Khalid continued. "I was there that day. I argued with him. I said things I should not have said. I did not mean any harm. I only wanted him to listen. But then an accident happened. He slipped near the river. I tried to help him. I ran for help, but it was too late. He passed away." He paused. He looked down at the ground. "I know many of you blame me. I know some of you have thought that I caused this, but I did not. It was an accident. I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have stopped it. I am sorry that I stayed silent. I am sorry for the pain I caused. I am sorry for the blame and the rumors." A heavy silence fell over the square. No one moved, no one spoke. The words hung in the air, some faces softened, some eyes filled with tears, some remained cold, but there was a shift. The truth had been spoken, and it carried weight that no whisper or rumor could match. Amina felt her chest tighten. She looked at Khalid. She could see the relief in his eyes, but also the fear. He was afraid they would still reject him. She knew that look. She had seen it on herself many times in the past days. She stepped forward. "I was there too," she said softly. "I have suffered, I have been alone, I have cried, I have struggled, but we cannot change the past. What matters now is that the truth is known." Khalid did not intend harm. The accident was tragic, but it was not caused by anger or violence. The villagers looked at her. Some nodded slowly. Some lowered their heads. Some wiped away tears. A few people stepped forward. They did not speak, but their presence alone felt like acknowledgement. An elder woman approached. Her face was lined with years of experience, but her eyes were kind. She placed a hand on Khalid's shoulder and nodded slowly. "It is time we move forward," she said. "The truth has been spoken. The past cannot be changed, but we can live honestly from now on." Other villagers began to step closer. They murmured quietly to each other. Some spoke words of forgiveness. Some offered small gestures of kindness. Amina felt a warmth she had not felt in weeks. She felt hope. She felt a sense of community returning. Khalid looked at her. He took a deep breath. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for standing with me." Amina nodded. "We survived the storm," she said softly, "and now we will survive the truth." The day continued. People offered help to rebuild her home. They brought boards, nails, and other supplies. They offered food and blankets. Amina accepted what she could, but she also felt proud of what she had built with Khalid's help. The shelter had survived the storm, and it would serve as a symbol of resilience and cooperation. Over the next few days, Khalid worked to repair the small damages in the village, helping where he could and showing the villagers that he was committed to making amends. Amina worked alongside him, teaching him how to properly handle the wood and the tools. They did not speak much about the past, but their actions communicated trust and cooperation. At night, they would sit in the shelter they had built together. They would talk quietly about small things, how the child had laughed that day, how the river had looked after the rain, how the village was slowly recovering. The heavy weight of grief had not vanished, but it had softened. The shelter was no longer just wood and rope. It had become a place of safety, of shared responsibility, and of quiet healing. Weeks passed. The village slowly returned to normal. The broken roofs were repaired. The flooded streets dried. The whispers lessened. Khalid's presence became less threatening and more accepted. Amina noticed the change in herself as well. She felt lighter, more capable. She knew the memory of her husband would always be with her, but it no longer kept her trapped in sorrow. One afternoon, she walked to the river with her child. She carried a small bundle of flowers. Khalid followed quietly behind. When they reached the riverbank, she knelt and placed the flowers by the water. She watched the current carry them gently downstream. "It's beautiful," her child said softly, looking at the flowing water. Amina smiled. "Yes," she said, "even after a storm, life continues." Khalid watched them silently. He did not speak, but Amina could see the change in him. He was no longer the man paralyzed by guilt. He had faced the truth and accepted it. He had taken responsibility. He had helped rebuild not only the village, but also a sense of trust. The child laughed and ran along the riverbank. Amina felt her heart fill with warmth. She realized that life was fragile, yes, but it was also full of possibilities. She could move forward. She could rebuild. She could live. Later that evening, she returned to the shelter with Khalid. They sat together quietly, watching the sunset. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink. The wind was soft. The boards of the shelter creaked gently, a reminder that it had weathered storms but remained strong. Amina looked at Khalid. "We did it," she said softly, "not just the shelter." "We faced the storm and we faced the truth," Khalid nodded. "Yes," he said, "we survived together." Amina smiled. "The past will always be a part of us," she said, "but it does not have to control us. We can build something new." They sat in silence, feeling the gentle night surround them. The storm had passed. The truth had been spoken. And for the first time in a long while, Amina felt that the future held hope. The shelter of broken boards had become more than a place to hide. It had become a place to begin again. Life in the village slowly returned to its rhythm. People spoke to Amina and Khalid without fear. They respected the truth that had been revealed. And Amina learned that even in the most difficult circumstances, honesty, courage, and perseverance could create strength from the broken pieces of life. The shelter remained standing. It was simple. It was imperfect. But it symbolized survival, forgiveness, and new beginnings. And every time Amina looked at it, she remembered that even broken things could protect, hold, and support life, as long as people were willing to work together and face the truth. The wind blew gently through the boards, carrying the sounds of the village and the laughter of her child. Amina smiled. Life was not perfect, but it was real, and that was enough.